What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here. Today we've got a really exciting knife to take a look at. I'm specifically excited for two reasons. One, this is one of my favorite knives ever, out of everything that I've ever handled. And two, this is a new sprint run offered by Spyderco. This is the Spyderco Manix 2 in Sprint 52-100 steel. Zoom in here so you can see that. This is brand new. Once again, Ricky, this is his third submission to my channel, lending it to me so I can do a review. He went ahead and ordered this here recently, and it came in by surprise today. So I've got it here, and I am really excited to talk about it. So the Manix 2, let's get this out of the way. This will come again as no surprise to anybody. In my opinion, this is, well, when I say that, I mean there are a lot of people who would agree that this is one of the best EDC folding knives out there. And I would agree. This is probably in my top 5 of all time best folding knives that you could possibly get, taking into consideration money, functionality, dependability, and of course the price on it. But we'll go over that here in a sec. 52-100 steel. I had to do some research on that because I didn't know anything about it really. It is not a new steel, though. You're going to be hard pressed to find it in a folding knife. From the research I've done, it is a ball bearing steel that is similar to 5160 spring steel and 1095, though it's best described as a 1095 plus or a super 1095. It's only got 1% chromium, so not a lot of corrosion resistance, and it is definitely considered a high carbon steel. It holds a decent edge, better than 1095 and better than 5160, but maintains a lot of its toughness for the edge. The 52-100, excuse me, I believe was more often used in fixed blades, mainly for its decent edge holding and impact resistance and edge toughness and ease of sharpenability. According to blade forums, you can get a geez, I do that a lot where I almost cut my finger. Brand new knife, that'll do that if you're not paying attention. But edge holding capabilities are decent, and then resharpenability is as easy, according to blade forums, as 20 to 30 passes on each side with a legal pad. That's pretty cool. So in my opinion, a lot of people might disagree that it's an appropriate steel for a folding knife, but I think it's an awesome choice. This is a fairly hard use knife. I believe there's a lot of people out there who describe the Manix 2 as a fairly hard use knife, and a lot of pressure on the blade, or if you are gonna, I guess, do some light chopping. I don't know why you'd do that, but if you did, the edge is going to be pretty tough, and if for any reason you mess it up a little bit, being able to do 20 to 30 passes on each side of the blade on a legal pad and get it back to a hair-popping sharp is pretty cool. I think that's awesome. So the 1% chromium doesn't really bother me on this one because it is coated, true DLC coating. Just to be clear, this is a USA, Golden, Colorado, USA Earth Spyderco, for anybody who's not familiar with the Manix 2. But yeah, pretty cool choice of steel. It's nice to see when they do weird stuff, different stuff. I love Spyderco sprints. I think it's really cool to be able to get, especially like the Manix 2 and the Paramilitary 2 and I think the Native 5. Those all come in crazy steels and different configurations. This one in particular has a very attractive aesthetic to it. This is a gray peel ply textured G10. You have, of course, the black DLC coating on the blade. You have black hardware, and also the liners are black, which is cool. I wasn't expecting that. Even this upward backspacer slash sort of spine lock thing that they've got going on back here is black, and they are still, of course, skeletonized. You can see in there. That's pretty cool. Lanyard barrel is also black inside and out. So that's awesome. Really, really cool. Pocket clip, also black. Almost didn't go over that. So Very, very appealing design on the outside. Ricky, I hope you use this one, because this to me screams user, not just because it's a Manix 2, but because of the steel choice. I really think this should be used. And you know, for anything you want to use it for that's within the realm of proper knife use, I think this will be excellent. You going through cardboard or plastic or rubber or whatever, and then if this gets dull, you don't have to send it in. You can sharpen it yourself, and you don't need to be a professional. You can just sharpen it up. I think that's great. I think that's that's really a factor that plays into a truly good EDC knife. So steel aside, my opinions on the Manix 2 and why it makes for such a great everyday carry folder. Number one, the mechanism. I'll talk about Benchmade axis locks and why I am not the biggest fan of them at some point, but this is more so what I prefer that's in the same realm, at least, you know, where you unlock it. So to deploy the knife, obviously you've got the Spidey hole. Open that up. And then to release the blade, this one's already getting pretty smooth. You just pull these two back on each side. Show the other side there. And it releases the blade, and you can close it. So one-handed opening and I guess retracting, or whatever you want to call that, putting the knife away, that's a huge plus. And of course, the Spyderco Clip, in my opinion, is one of the best designed pocket clips out there for that big divot right there. It makes it really easy to get in and out of the pocket, regardless of the fact that this is a peel ply texture, and it will kind of do some damage to jeans and khakis and things like that over time. It's still a nice texturing for grip, so on and so forth. But really the biggest thing with this knife are the ergonomics. All the finger positioning, or all the finger positions on this knife are perfect. Where you're going to put your finger in the forward choil, where you're going to put your thumb on the jimping on the back, where you're going to put your hands here in the standard grip, or even if you go down lower, not sure why you'd do that. Reverse grip here, reverse grip in the choil. Again, not sure why you need to hold it like that, but it's comfortable no matter where you hold it. Really cool. Leaf-shaped blade with the you know, standard Spyderco splinter getter. That is definitely a Spyderco fine tip. Love that. Love that the blade stock is fairly thin, and of course that classic flat grind on the leaf blade makes for an excellent slicer. I believe these flat DLC coatings actually add or reduce resistance while cutting too, so the blade should actually glide through material a little bit better versus an uncoated blade. That just sort of adds to the benefit of this blade style here. Should be fairly easy to sharpen given the shape of the main cutting edge there. The back of this, how it kind of curves up and then back down, that really fits into your palm nicely. That's really perfect. The reason, well, the way that this works, there's probably not going to be a way to capture it, but you can see that little spring inside there. At the top of it, more towards the rounded tang of the blade here, is a ball bearing that sits at the top of this actuator switch, or this lock here, and that pushes the ball bearing into the tang of the blade. So as you lock it, that spring pushes it up there and gets lodged in the tang of the blade, and then the back here actually interacts with this steel backspacer. So that's how it locks in and sandwiches. Really poor description of how that works. Sorry, I lose myself in terminology there, but ball bearing locks it in place, and then the second point of contact is up here on the spine of the blade, interacting with this backspacer here. That's how it locks into place. That to me is a way better system than Omega springs, which is what Benchmade uses to push the axis lock bar up into the tang where it locks into place. And it's not so much the axis lock barrel itself, it's the fact that they have to use Omega springs. I just don't trust them as much. They're little tiny flimsy feeling things, and I always feel obligated to get in there and oil them. Not so much with this. I trust that single spring a lot more than an Omega spring, so I think that's really good. And it's the same type of, you know, pull back and then kind of close it deal. And of course you still can flick this out just like your your other Spyderco models really easily. So no issues there. The detent, you know, it's a lot like a Benchmade axis lock. It kind of sucks it down into position at a lot higher point than a ceramic ball detent. So your point where it starts to do that is right there, and I like that. It feels nice. Just all the way around, these things are awesome, and this is one of the coolest sprints I've ever seen on the Manix 2. It's different, you know, the color of the G10. It's very appealing. It's very business looking. I like it. Some people just hate Spydercos, you know, and I mentioned this in a previous video. I thought they were the ugliest things on the planet the first time I saw them, but I started getting into them, and I realized, you know, their design philosophy is make it usable. And they certainly have some models that go against the grain on that, but for these flagship ones like the Manix 2, this is an amazing example of them making a tool that is designed to cut and maintain or one that you can maintain. It's designed to do everything really well with the lowest maintenance possible. You know, pull it out of your pocket, use it, retract it, and put it back in your pocket. That's what it should do. So this is a fantastic example. I don't think there are a lot of these on YouTube yet, so I'm really excited to get this out here. You know, I used to be and I still kind of am, a big steel snob. My XM18 is in M390 for those of you who haven't watched my other videos, and I've always considered M390 to be the best steel, and that's mainly because I've, you know, kind of gotten caught up in the hype of it online. But the downfall to M390, though it does have excellent edge retention and corrosion resistance, is if I actually were to ever dull it, it would be a nightmare getting it back to sharp or usably sharp. So there's a huge advantage, I think, to folding knives with steels that are easily sharpenable, because if you're going to carry it all the time, it implies you're going to be using it all the time. And if you're going to be using it all the time and you can easily resharpen it, then you never have to worry about that. I use this thing, a little bit, but if I were to use it all the time, eventually it would get dull and it would be a nightmare to get it sharpened again. So that's my downfall with this knife, and I bought it this way just because I enjoy M390, and I'm not as hardcore of a user, so I don't know, I guess I justify that. But in terms of a realistic everyday carry, I think the Manix 2 might have the hinderer beat, you know, in an all-encompassing sense of utility, for sure. They're very close to the same overall size. You can see there, choils are in nearly the same position. Handle space is about the same. They've actually got some similarities, but then they've got some extreme differences as well. But I don't know, if it really comes down to it, I think a coated, tough, easily sharpenable steel that holds a reasonable edge has a pretty major advantage over a super steel. So I don't know, tell me what you guys think. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment or whatever. Maybe you love the Manix 2 and you want to talk about it. Maybe you hate the Manix 2 and you want to talk about that. I'm okay either way. I love everybody's opinions. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed this video, check out my other stuff and subscribe, because there's a lot more coming. So again, hope you guys enjoyed it and have a great day.